Now, continuing on from our coverage of the TG Carr Ladies All Ireland Intermediate Championship, we now look ahead to the semi-finals that are coming up this weekend. And one of the teams involved is Clare, of course, and I'm delighted to be joined by Clare manager Wayne Freeman. The Clare side that have been in the league final, Munster final, and potentially now are just over an hour's football away from a place in the All-Ireland Intermediate final this year. I suppose, Wayne, in terms of 2023 as a whole, have you been fairly happy with your first term as manager?
Yeah, look, first, Dermot, thanks for having me on. We would have set the 3 targets at the beginning of the year, and that was all 3 finals. So we've hit 2, and we're on course to hit 1. We have a big 60 minutes ahead of us, a huge challenge. But we're in, we're out with 4 weeks to go left in the season, and that's what we want. We've always taken it game by game, so we've never looked too far ahead. Wanted to kind of stay in the present, because it's very easy to slip up in such a competitive championship where majority of the teams involved are quite even. So we never really look too far ahead. But I think we'd be pretty pleased with where we are this year overall.
I suppose, look, you came in late last year, not long after Clare lost in their semi-final this time last year as well. Did you get the vibe in the camp that a lot of players may have been a bit dejected, and then, coming into your first year as manager, that might have been a little bit on their minds coming into 2023?
Yeah, maybe. We had a bit of a turnover in players. I think 7 or maybe 8 out of that starting 15 against Laois are not with us this year. So maybe the remaining players probably felt that, that little bit of dejection and disappointment from the Laois game. But them players are they love football, and they're very realistic in the sense that they move on, and it's the next challenge for them. And combined with the fresher faces and different players coming in, and it's a different panel, different look, different management. I suppose they were able to just move on from the past and start again as such. I look forward to the year ahead. So I'd say there probably was a little bit of it, but I think once we got halfway through the league and we started to turn the corner a little bit, we would have set out a plan in place for the league to try and peak at a particular time, and not go too early, because we're new and we wanted to give as many players an opportunity, competitive football, and we needed to try 1 or 2 things early in the league to see if they'd work for us, and what kind of tactics would suit us as a team. We can't play the same way everywhere I go. It's not just one kind of plan that we just bring around with us to every team. It has to change and alter depending on the players you have. So we had to try and figure out what worked for us. And I think, as the league progressed, I think there was a lot of confidence starting to build in the group. I think the Kildare loss down in Clare actually galvanised us a good bit, because we really should have won that game. But it was also an eye-opener to go, look, we are good enough here. This is, a clear example of that. And I think that probably pushed us on. And since then, we've been pretty good. It's hard to really have too many negatives on us. We're highly critical of ourselves now. In fairness, the players are highly critical. They're very competitive, so we do work very hard. But to think that we're in an All-Ireland semi-final is probably just to the work that we've been doing all year.
And you're obviously a Kildare man at the wheel of Clare at the moment. I think you're the first outsider, if you want to call it an outsider term that people use, since 2016 that has managed the Clare team. How have you found that transition to being, I suppose, in Clare now? I don't know if you're living in Clare, working at the moment, or are you doing a bit of commuting, or what's the case?
Yeah, so we commute. There's 3 of us coming up from Kildare, Lee Hunt and Brian Willis, who've been with me for a long time. We live in Kildare. I work kind of split with Dublin, so I would do remotely some days and in Dublin others. Brian's in Dublin most of the time, and Lee's in the Garda College in Templemore. So we would commute 3 times a week. I suppose the commuting side of it is tough, but we travel together, which makes it easy, and we're good friends, so we get along, very well, which helps. But in regards to integrating into the new group, it's been quite easy enough, to be honest with you. I think the three of us are quite laid back and easygoing characters in regards to conversations and just, generating a bit of crack and a bit of a laugh, as well as the professional side of it. So we've really enjoyed the year. We've some brilliant footballers, and we've thoroughly enjoyed coming to training and enjoying the quality that we have in front of us. With some great characters in the group as well. Some very funny characters and bring real life around the place. And we quite enjoy that as well. So yeah, no, the transition's been good. We've come from Louth, so we know the commute. We've dealt with it for 3 years, and coming from Kildare into Louth, we've had this stage of integration as well. So it's something that we've seen before, and we're just very, very much football men as such, and we love football, and the opportunity in Clare was too good to turn down. And yeah, we've really enjoyed the year so far.
You mentioned Louth there. Obviously, that was your last role as a manager just before you took the Clare job at the end of last year. And I don't know if a lot of people know about you, but you were 25, I believe, when you took that role at Louth. Fairly young for a manager, but for some people that don't know, you had you had a very good underage career. You were a talented footballer in Kildare, but your career was cut relatively short at 21 due to a few health reasons that you had to call it a day. I suppose being 21, you're probably in your prime. You're a young lad trying to break into teams. Was that fairly tough for you to have to say, look, I have to call it and look at something else?
Yeah, so I had a stroke at 21. That was the issue. So it forced me into retirement. I suppose the first, to be honest, 3 years I was nearly in denial. I'd always had sights on going back, and I kind of used coaching just to stay involved with it. Gavin Doyle at the time was manager of Laois Minors, which would have been Aaron Fitzpatrick's minor group, and I got involved with him, and that's actually where I met Brian. And from there, we ended up in Kildare with the minor teams there for 2 years. We won an All-Ireland with Kildare, which would have been Nessa Dooley's minor team. So I suppose even at that point, I was still considering, maybe a possibility of going back. But as time progressed and, things change, it just wasn't feasible for me to go back playing football. Now, although I do still get the text messages to try and get me back, but I think them days are gone. I'm heading towards 30 now, so I have to kick the ball in 9 years. So yeah, it was difficult because I loved playing, and it was my passion. I delegated everything around my life to make sure I could play football, working, etc. And it was a big moment in my life, big change. But coaching and management has filled that void for me very well. It's completely different because you learn more about a team ethos when you move into coaching. As a player, you would be just focused on your own individual development and doing better yourself, and it's all quite individual and a little bit selfish thinking. But when you go into coaching, you do realize the group is so important, and all the different dynamics around teammates and all pulling the one direction, that it's how important that is. And so it's been great to kind of come through the county system as a player from the underage, being able to see that and then move into this side of it then on inter-county level as well. So it's all been very, very interesting. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed all 4 teams that we've been involved with. And yeah, it was young to start out, in fairness, and in fairness to Louth, they, I suppose gambled on me a little bit. Who know, a 25-year-old could go into senior inter-county management and gain respect and, get a team to play the way that we wanted, and, won a league title there for the first time for Louth, getting them out of Division 4 and getting the 3 All-Ireland quarterfinals in a row at intermediate level. So it was all groundbreaking for them. And that was great. We formed great relationships down there. And yeah, this is just the new step on our journey as a coaching team. I've been with the lads for years, like I said, good friends, and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Do you reckon that when you came into that as like the fresh-faced 25-year-old, that you were selected over whoever else went for the role as the Louth manager, that maybe a few eyebrows might have been raised from other managers around the country to say, oh, Louder appointing a 25-year-old, and now we're going up against them in the league, the championship.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know whether they look too much into me. Maybe more the players. Maybe the people in Loud probably had more eyebrows raised than anyone else. There were probably questions around, could this guy get senior footballers to do what we wanted to do? But we have a management style that's more of a fluid style, where we want to build relationships with players. It's not very dictatorship, where we lay down the law and that's it, do it or go kind of a thing. And that's tended to work for us. I always feel that if you've players that want to play for you, that they'll go out and play better than someone dragging their heels. So we try and form good relationships, and it's a testament to the latest groups that we have. We have a very good relationship with the players. I think we're very, very united in what we want to do and the way we want to play and everything. So, to be honest with you, I haven't thought too much around it. We get so engrossed in the actual coaching and the players, and worrying about what's going on within our own camps without actually worrying about what's going on externally. But I haven't really thought too much about it, to be honest.
I suppose the one thing you're more worrying about now is Sunday's game up in Longford taking on Antrim. What's the mood like amongst the coaching staff and the panel itself now going into this, this big game on Sunday?
The mood is brilliant. And everyone says that this time of the year is where you want to be playing. The height of summer. But the mood has been great since the start of the championship, to be honest with you. We put in probably 2.5-3 months now of unbelievable training, and everyone's been in brilliant form. And that's probably testament to the results we've had. We've been really looking forward to these games because we feel like we've planned for them. Antrim is, obviously, like I was talking to you there, I was saying that I was in Loud. I would have come up against Antrim quite a bit. So for Emma and her team, this hasn't been something new to me. This has been something I've seen for a while now, and this is something that's been coming. Their rise. So it's not a shock to me. It's not a shock to my players now, because before the Ulster Championship, I actually stood in front of the Clare girls and said, Antrim have a shot at winning this. So we were planning for all three teams, essentially, because we were getting the runners up from Ulster in our group. It ended up Tyrone. But the players in Clare knew that this team was coming, and none of it's a surprise to us now. They've good footballers, and they've developed really well under Emma, and they're deservedly where they are as well.
Yeah, and I suppose you've had a fairly good campaign. You're unbeaten since the league. Great Munster campaign, now followed by the championship. Couple of there's been a little bit of a break now, obviously, between the end of the the getting now to the semi-finals. But have you had any injuries? I know you've had a few that would be more long term, but has anyone picked up any knocks since the last day?
No, we've lost Lizzie. But that's it, really. We're in a good bit of health at the moment. Like our training intensity is probably down. Like the work is done now. It's very much tactical. And keeping the tools sharp. Rather than anything else, and keeping everyone fresh. So no, except Lizzie, we're in pretty much a full bill of health.
You mentioned Antrim there, definitely a team that you're very familiar with. You've been talking them up quite a lot. They've had a fairy tale season since coming up from the junior grade last year, and they look to have been real dark horses. Now they're in the semi-finals. Who do you reckon you're the favourites going into it, or do you even consider favourites? Do you read into anything that's spoken by the media outlets going into these type of games?
I tend not to look at the media outlets, to be honest with you. You always hear the big GAA coaches saying, don't read a paper until after the All-Ireland. But and that's very much where I come from, because, it's very easy to get influenced when you're listening to certain things, from either a positive side of it or negative side of it. You can get engrossed in it, and you can forget what you're actually trying to do internally. But I look at on paper, we've been in Division 3 league final. There we're in the Division 4 league final, so technically we're favourites. But at this time of the year, you're in an All-Ireland semi-final. There's no favourites. Kildare and Wexford are in the same boat. Wexford didn't make the league final, which probably makes Kildare favourites, but it's an All-Ireland Championship semi-final. We've seen now in the men's that the underdogs can, go very, very close to winning. Derry arguably should have beaten Kerry yesterday. So like it's absolutely there for a win. And the way we always think about things internally is if we're good enough, we'll win, and if we're not good enough, we won't win. And it's very, very simplified that way. We'll put a plan in place for Antrim, and we'll try and execute that to the best of our ability. And if we're good enough, we'll beat them, and if we're not, we won't. And it's something that's exciting for us, because I don't even think these two teams have played maybe once at this level, at adult level, but it's definitely a long, long time, if ever. So this is a new territory for both sides, and quite exciting, because some of the matchups we're going to see, you have some of the best players in certain positions. You're going to have Schiffer Niconnell, which I think is probably the best fullback, definitely at intermediate, but I would argue to put her up there right with the senior fullbacks, right at the top of that, up against Orla Prenter, who's one of the best forwards in the country. So you're going to have battles all over the field. So it's going to be very, very intriguing and very interesting. And, it's exciting for us more than anything else. It's an opportunity to go to Crow Park, and that's the only way we look at it, and we'll do our very best to beat them.
If you were to get through and take part in, and head to Crow Park and play in the final, obviously looking at the other semi-final, you have the likes of Wexford and Kildare. If just get Clare Kildare final, I'd say to be fairly interesting in your house going into that game.
Yeah, well, I've already had a few people tell me that they're Kildare supporters, and they'll have to bite their tongue on it if that happened. But we're not looking past this game, and I'm not trying to be smart and I'm saying that, like, we really aren't. We've been very good at filtering down into one game every single time, and not looking past the next. We'll try and improve on Westmeath. There's areas of the game that we were disappointed with against Westmeath, even though we won probably quite comfortable in the end. There was a period there where we were poor, and we've looked very closely at that, and we want to improve that area of our game. And then the areas that we are good in, and we've worked very hard to be good in, continue to do them at a high level, and try and bring our game and our tactics and the way we want to play to the game. And we're not going to play with the shackles on it in any capacity. We're going to really try and go for this game, and we're not worried about anything else. The other game could go either way. Wexford, like I said, could beat Kildare. Kildare favourites. You never know what's going to happen. It's neutral ground. It's an All-Ireland semi-final. We haven't even got a clue what the weather's going to be like. That it could be scorched, or we could get burnt, or we could get absolutely poured on, with the way things are. So we can only take things as it comes and worry about ourselves and not really anyone else.
I think the weather in Clare is definitely unforgiving, but so in Longford as well, probably could be interesting to see what kind of weather you've had. The championship kind of started with a scorcher, and now it could be rain sodden this weekend. But look, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, you're up in action against Antrim this Sunday in Glennon Brothers Pierce Park in Longford at 2 p.m. throw-in time. So interesting to see the result and who goes forward in the championship. But Wayne, thanks for chatting to me today. And of course, best of luck with the fixture on Sunday.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, Diarmuid. Appreciate it.